You ever feel headlights behind you that don't belong? That was the first thing I remember thinking. It's not the cake from the wedding. Or how good my girlfriend Olivia looked dancing barefoot in that barn-turned reception hall. Or even the long drive ahead. Just that gut-deep animal feeling. We're being followed, and whoever's behind the wheel ain't right. It was late past 1 in the morning. We'd stayed to help clean up, saying our goodbyes for the 5th time, like people always do at those kinds of gatherings. The wedding was way out in rural Arkansas, 3 hours from our place in Conway. On winding back roads where cell service vanished the second you turned off the highway. We were both tired but wired, jittery from bad wine and leftover adrenaline. It started just after we crossed an old steel truss bridge over a dried-out creek bed. The kind of bridge you don't notice until you're halfway across, and then it groans under your tires like it might not survive the year. We hadn't seen another car in a while. Nothing but trees and moonlight and bugs dive-bombing the windshield. Olivia was nodding off in the passenger seat, bare feet up on the dash, and I was half listening to some true crime podcast that had cut out 10 minutes earlier. That's when I saw it. Headlights, far off in the mirror. 2 glaring white dots, tucked low like a truck's brights. Finally, I muttered, someone else out here. But the way those lights moved, something was off. They were coming in fast. Too fast. No dips. No slowing on the curves. Just barreling forward. Gaining. Liv, I said. Hey, wake up, she groaned, sitting up halfway. What's wrong? I didn't answer right away. I was watching the mirror, and the truck had suddenly disappeared behind a bend one. Of those hairpins that should be made it slow. But then, out of nowhere, it exploded back into view. The lights brighter. Closer. Too close. I tapped the brakes to see if it'd back off. It didn't. Instead, it surged forward again, high beams washing the whole interior of our car in harsh white light. Olivia sat all the way up now, shielding her eyes. Is it tailgating us? She said, twisting to look. Yeah, I said. I don't like it. I sped up a little, not reckless just enough to put some distance. But the truck matched me. Every move I made, it mirrored. When I eased around the next turn, it didn't lag even a second. Just kept on coming. That's when the engine sound changed. T wasn't ours. It was his. Deep, throaty, like an old diesel that hadn't seen maintenance in a decade. But there was no rattling, no variation. It's just this steady growl, like a hungry thing breathing hard down our necks. I leaned forward, squinting in the mirror, trying to get a look at the cab. No dice. Just blinding white, no logo, no markings. Just 2 halo-bright eyes, chasing us through the woods. What kind of truck is that? Olivia asked. I don't know, I said, but it wants us off this road. That was the moment when I felt it. Like a pressure pushing forward from the back seat. Not just tailgating anymore. Hunting. Then it lurched. Closed the gap, and rammed us. The impact wasn't huge, just enough to jolt the car forward, snap our heads back, and make Olivia scream. What the hell? She cried, bracing against the glove box. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white, tires skimming the edge of the shoulder. The road was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 cars, and now this thing was pushing us. Rammed us, I said, breath shallow. That truck just banged. It hit us again, harder this time. The back tires fishtailed, and I had to fight the wheel to keep us from sliding off into the ditch. Rocks spit out from under us, smacking the undercarriage. What is he doing? Olivia shouted. Why is he doing this? I don't know, I yelled, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything. Hold on. I stomped the gas. We weren't in my regular car. We had borrowed my dad's old Toyota Camry for the trip. And while it was reliable, it sure as hell wasn't built to outrun psycho truck drivers on backwoods roads. Still, we pulled ahead for a second. I took the next curve hard, tires screeching, praying we didn't hit gravel. The lights behind us didn't slow. It whipped around that same curve like gravity meant nothing to them. No sway, no tilt, just locked on us. That's not right, Olivia whispered, voice tight with fear. That truck shouldn't be able to take turns like that. I know, I said, none of this is right. The next few minutes blurred together. I drove like my life depended on it because it did. Every second, I expected to feel that jolt again. The steel frame of a decades-old monster smashing into our bumper and sending us careening into the trees. But it didn't come. The truck just kept behind us, high beams flooding every mirror, engine howling like some kind of demon hound. Then I saw the crossroads, a faded old sign pointing toward an even smaller road, gravel, steep, maybe a logging path. I didn't think. I just turned. The car jolted hard, pebbles flying, suspension screaming in protest. The truck followed. No hesitation. "It's not real," Olivia whispered, hugging herself. "That thing, it's not a person. There's no way a human's driving that." I wanted to argue, I really did. Wanted to say it was just some methead in an old rig, or a local pissed we were speeding, or anything that made sense. But then it pulled up beside us. Let me say that again. It pulled up beside us. On a one-lane dirt road with a drop-off on one side and trees pressed in on the other. This truck, this massive thing, drew even with us like it was sliding on air. I turned my head. I don't know why. I didn't want to see, but I did. And there was no one in the cab, just empty glass and a shadow behind the wheel. Not a person, just a shape.
No face.
No features. Just two glowing orbs in the darkness where a driver's eyes should be. The truck swerved closer. I screamed. And the world exploded in white. I don't remember the crash. I remember the sound of thunderclap of metal, scream of rubber, and something deeper, like a roar that came from under the ground. Then darkness. When I came to, everything was sideways. The car had spun out and landed in a ditch, tilted at a sharp angle. The windshield was cracked like a spider web, the dashboard blinking furiously with warning lights. There was dust floating in the air, glittering like ash. I could hear the faint whine of the engine trying to decide whether to give up or keep going. "Liv," I croaked, tasting blood. She groaned beside me. Her forehead had a thin gash, and her seatbelt had burned a red line across her chest, but she was awake. "Riley?" She mumbled. "What? What happened?" I looked behind us. Nothing. No headlights. No truck. Just an empty road, and the trees pressing close. "Are you okay?" I asked, reaching across to touch her face. "Are you hurt?" I think I'm okay," she said, blinking slowly. "Where did it go?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. 1 second it was beside us, about to shove us off the road entirely, and the next it vanished, like it had never been there at all. I pushed the door open and stumbled out into the night. The air was cold and smelled like oil and pine needles. My legs were shaking so bad I almost fell. I walked a few paces up the road, heart still slamming, ears ringing, scanning the trees for headlights, for diesel smoke, for anything. But it was gone. No taillights, no engine sound, no fresh skid marks or broken branches. Just that empty feeling, like something had passed through us. Liv climbed out too, holding her arms like she was cold. Did you see it?" she asked. "Inside the cab?" I nodded. She didn't ask what I saw. I think she already knew. We stood there in silence for a long time. Eventually I called 911. Had to walk a quarter mile up the road to get a single bar of service. The dispatcher asked if we'd been drinking. No. Using anything? No. Any sign of the other vehicle? Said no, because how do you explain something like that? How do you tell a sheriff's deputy you were nearly run off the road by a truck with no driver? They towed the car the next morning. Declared it a freak accident. "We were lucky," they said. If we'd skidded just 10 feet further, we would have gone into a ravine. Probably wouldn't have walked away. "Someone looking out for y'all," the mechanic said, smiling. I didn't smile back. Because that wasn't someone looking out for us. That was something trying to drag us down. A week later, I got curious. Searched the stretch of road where it happened. Pulled up old news stories, car accidents, police reports, obituaries. And I found it. A trucker named Hank Leland died on that same road in 1998. Fell asleep at the wheel. Took a corner to fast and flipped his rig into a ravine. Died on impact. Locals said his truck burned for 3 days straight. Some say his lights still appear on the back roads after midnight. Some say he never left the wheel. Some say he's looking for company. I shut the laptop and never searched again. I still don't drive back roads at night. And if I see headlights in the mirror, hugging too close, I pull over and let them pass. Because I know. Some rides don't want to pass you. They want to take you. It's been 3 years since that night, and I still don't trust the rear view. Sometimes I'll be driving home after work's on down, road quietened. I'll catch a pair of headlights in the mirror. For a split second, the panic rises like bile. My foot twitches on the gas. My fingers grip the wheel too tight. I feel that old pressure crawl across my shoulders, like something watching me from behind the glass. I remind myself, it's just a car. Just some guy headed home. Just coincidence. But then there are nights when the lights don't act right. Nights when they linger too long. When they match my turns. When they seem to hover just at the edge of the high beams waiting. I haven't told Olivia. It's not lately. We've both done our best to push that night down into the dark places of our memory. We've moved, bought a new car. We even got engaged. Life's moved on. But sometimes I wake up at exactly 1:17 a.m., the time of the crash. My throat dry. The faint scent of burnt rubber in the air. And I swear I can hear it. That diesel growl, not from outside, but from inside the walls, humming through the pipes. A vibration, not a sound. Presence. Last month, we got a letter. No return address, just our names on the envelope, written in shaky block letters inside. A photo. Black and white, grainy. It showed the rear end of a car, just like my dad's old Camry, with headlights flaring up behind it. But not just any headlights. They were identical to the ones I saw that night. Low set. Angry. Wrong. On the back of the photo, scribbled in the same blocky handwriting. See you again. Keep your lights on. I didn't show Olivia. I burned it in the sink. And yet, I've started hearing a new sound when I'm on the road. Not often, just every once in a while. Only on the darkest nights, when there's no other traffic and the road seems to stretch forever. It starts as a low rumble, barely there. Then the mirrors start to shake. And far off, too far to see, but close enough to feel, a pair of lights flicker into view. They don't blink. They don't move. They just wait. 'Cause some things don't die when the body does. Some things keep driving, looking for the next set of taillights to chase. And if you're not careful, if you don't listen to the fear in your gut when that old growl shows up behind, you just might find yourself in the ditch. Or worse, in the driver's seat. I thought I could forget about it. I thought if I just ignored it long enough, if I kept living like a normal person, paid my taxes, remembered birthdays, watered the damn houseplants, that somehow the weight of that night would let go. But some things aren't made to be forgotten. Last week we were driving back from Olivia's parents' place. It was late, cold, highway dead empty. I hadn't even thought about it. We were just talking about stupid stuff. Arguing about where we should stop for fries, laughing like we were teenagers again. And then the radio cut out. Just this high-pitched whine. Like the static from an old TV. I glanced down to fiddle with the dial. Didn't even think about it. That's when I saw the dashboard lights flicker. That rumble started up again. Not from outside. From beneath us. Olivia noticed too. Her smile vanished. She sat up straighter and said, "Riley, is the road vibrating?" I didn't answer, because in the mirror, they were back. Those two white-hot headlights, too low to the ground, too wide apart, crawling up behind us from the darkness like a pair of glowing fangs. "No," I muttered. "What? What is it?" Olivia asked, turning. "Is it him?" I nodded once. I think he found us again. The truck made no noise. None. But I could feel it somehow. Like it wasn't driving on the road, but through it. Like the blacktop was just decoration. And that thing obeyed different laws entirely. I sped up. Didn't even mean to. My foot just pressed down. The lights kept pace. Matched every move I made. I took an exit. Didn't matter. It followed. No engine sound. Just that bone-deep pressure and a gnawing sense of wrongness flooding the car like a gas leak. We passed a gas station closed. Deserted. Neon buzzing like it was trying to scream. I slammed the brakes and pulled in. Shut the car off. Heart hammering. The lights vanished. Gone. Like they'd never been there. I jumped out and ran to the road, scanning the highway. Nothing. Just wind and the distant howl of a coyote. Olivia stayed in the car, her hands clenched tight on her thighs. I walked back slowly, every hair on my arm standing straight up. When I got in, she whispered, "You said it was over." "Thought it was," I said. She looked at me, then really looked at me. "Why won't it stop?" I didn't have an answer. But that night, while Olivia slept curled beside me in bed, I went online. I didn't just search the name Hank Leland this time. I went deeper. Used old newspaper archives, trucking forums, road ghost databases, anything. And I found a pattern, not just Arkansas, not just 1998, but Ohio. 1971, Montana, 1983, Texas, 2005. People couples mostly describing a truck. No driver. No license plates, no engine, just headlights and pressure and violence, and always the same ending. The truck disappears, but never for good. Sometimes it's gone for years, sometimes just weeks. But it always comes back. Looking, hunting, remembering. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it wants. But I think I know why it keeps coming back to me. Because I survived. Because I saw it. Because I talked about it. And now I think it's following not just on the road, but through memory, through story, like a curse with wheels. So if you're reading this and you've ever seen headlights in the dark, ones that felt too close, to wrong if your radio's gone static at 1:17 a.m., or the road beneath you suddenly feels like it's breathing, ... Don't look back. Don't slow down. And whatever you do, don't let it pass you. After that night at the gas station, something in me broke. It wasn't fear. Not exactly. Fear is sharp and fast, what you feel when you flinch or run. This was different. This was expectation. Like I'd already accepted that wherever I went, he would follow. Like the truck had stitched itself into my story, and no matter how far I drove, I was always just a few exits away from seeing those headlights again. I stopped taking highways at night, started keeping a bag in the car with emergency supplies flares, a radio, a flashlight, extra water. I even bought a dash cam. Not that I thought it would catch anything useful, but I needed something, some kind of proof, if not for others, then for me. A month later, Olivia told me she was pregnant. She said it with tears in her eyes, hands over her belly like she was already guarding it. And the first thing I felt wasn't joy, it was terror. Because suddenly, I wasn't just running for me. For this new life that hadn't even arrived yet, and the thought of bringing a child into a world where that truck still lurked in the rear view, it made me sick. I don't want to live like this, Olivia said one night, as we sat on the couch in the dark, always watching the mirror, always expecting him. I don't either, I said. So what do we do? I didn't answer her. Not right then, but the question stuck. It gnawed at me. Somewhere along the way, I realized what I had to do. I went back. Not to the wedding road. That bridge and that stretch of woods were long behind me now. I went to where it all started. It's really started. I drove to Leland's Ravine. It's the one from the 1998 crash report, where the truck burned for 3 days, where the trees still won't grow quite right, and the grass grows in tight brown patches, like the earth itself got scorched down to the bones. It took me hours to find it tucked behind a chain-link fence in a forgotten mile marker off Highway 14. Locals had dumped trash there over the years. Tires, beer bottles. But the clearing at the bottom still felt wrong. Still smelled like diesel and something older. I walked the slope down on foot, holding a flashlight even though it was midday. The sun didn't seem to reach the bottom. The air was dead quiet. Not even bugs. And then I saw it. Or what was left of it. Half buried in weeds and rust and dirt, old metal grill, massive, bent, and beside it, tire tracks, deep, fresh, no footprints, no vehicle, just those tracks. I knelt and touched the ground. It was warm, and that's when I heard it. That low, throaty rumble I hadn't heard in weeks. But this time, it wasn't behind me. It was under me. I jumped back, heart slamming, stumbling up the hill so fast I scraped my palms and knees bloody. The rumble grew louder, like something deep below the earth was turning over, great engine waking from sleep. I made it to the top of the hill and stopped, panting, staring down into the ravine. And then headlights. For a split second, 2 pale white lights flared up from the center of the gully. No source, just there. Then they were gone. But I knew what it meant. I hadn't found his grave. I'd found his garage. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Even after I made it home. Even after Olivia met me at the door with wide eyes and trembling hands. asking where I'd been, what had happened. My mind was locked in that ravine. Those tracks, that impossible warmth, those lights. I didn't tell her everything. It's just enough to explain why I looked like I'd rolled down a cliff. Just wanted to see the place, I said. Put it to rest. She didn't believe me, not really, but she didn't press. I think she knew same way I did, that whatever ID stirred up down there had Auntie gone back to sleep. The next few days were quiet. It's too quiet, like the air was waiting, till the night our power went out. I was brushing my teeth, Olivia already in bed. The house gave this low electric sigh, and then everything shut off. Lights, hums, the distant whir of the fridge. Gone. Silence. Then the headlights flared. Not outside. Inside from the hallway. I turned slowly, toothbrush still in my hand, heart already pounding in my throat. And there they were, flooding the narrow hallway with blinding, colorless light. Not shaped like a truck, just light. No engine, no roar. But I felt him. I backed into the bathroom and slammed the door, heart thundering. And a second later, the entire house shook boom, like something massive had hit it. Windows rattled, drywall cracked. Olivia screamed from the bedroom. Riley, is that? I threw the door open, ran to her. The light was gone now, but the bedroom window glowed faint white, like a car had parked right outside and angled its brights directly in, except we don't have a driveway back there. It's yard, just open field and woods. I grabbed Olivia and held her close. She was crying now, her hands cradling her stomach. I don't understand, she sobbed. Why is it here? And I knew in that moment it wasn't here to run us off the road. Not anymore. It had followed us home. The rules had changed. It wasn't a truck anymore, not really. It was him. Whatever spirit or force or echo of Hank Leland remained, it had become something else. It had learned. And now it wanted in. That night, we slept in the car, parked under a streetlight in a grocery store lot. We weren't the only ones. There were 2 other cars doing the same thing. People asleep or staring at their phones, pretending like they had somewhere to be. But I couldn't stop watching the entrance to the lot, waiting for those lights to appear again. They didn't, not that night. In the morning, I made a decision. I was done running. I drove back to the ravine, not to chase him, not to provoke, but to end it. I brought everything I had. It's holy water from a local church, the tire iron from the trunk, and the original photo. The one I'd kept hidden from Olivia, the one that showed our car, caught in the glow of those impossible lights. And as I stood at the edge of that hollow in the earth, I said his name out loud. Hank Leland. I know who you are. Wind kicked up immediately. Hot, dirty, wrong. Like it had come from an exhaust pipe 100 feet wide. You're not forgotten, I said. But you don't belong here anymore, the ravine growled. No, I'm not exaggerating, it growled. Like the land itself was alive and furious. I lit one of the flares and hurled it into the center of the pit. The earth didn't catch fire, but the air lit up with movement, and the lights returned. Not to this time. 4 lined up in a row, floating just above the ground, like the truck had grown. Or brought friends. The lights didn't blink. They just hovered, steady and silent, about 10 feet above the floor of the ravine. Not headlights anymore. Not exactly. They looked like eyes now wide, watchful, wrong. Bear a different intensity. One glowed dull yellow, like old halogen bulbs. Another was bluish-white, painfully bright. The third looked almost red, flickering like a dying filament. The last one, if it even was. Light barely shimmered, like heat off asphalt. You wouldn't notice it unless you were already watching for it. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I'd come here with the stupidest kind of courage, the kind that grows when fear runs dry. When you're too tired to panic and too angry to care. But now that I was standing on the lip of this sinkhole from hell, every cell in my body told me the truth. I was prey. And I was standing in the den. The lights began to shift, not fade, not flicker. They started to move around each other, slow and deliberate, like animals circling a kill. The air got thick so hot, I started sweating through my jacket, even though it was a cool February morning. And then I saw it. Him. Something taking form in the center of those lights. A silhouette. Too tall. Too wide. Shoulders like a truck's front end. Arms that looked like they were jointed in the wrong places. And behind it, a flicker of chrome that bent like skin. But the face? There wasn't one. Just that same blank panel of light. No grill, no mouth, no windshield. Just a searing white void pointed at me like a spotlight from hell. I don't remember drawing the tire iron from my belt, but I remember the sound I made when I screamed. Sound I didn't know I was capable of. Raw, primal, more animal than man. Enough. I shouted, my voice echoing across the empty clearing. I'm not afraid of you anymore. You can follow me, you can haunt me, but I am not your roadkill. The silhouette paused, and for a split second, I swear I felt something like hesitation. Not fear, not confusion, recognition, and I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just some ghost stuck in a loop, doomed to relive its last ride. No, this thing was evolving, learning. Each chase, each crash, each witness they fed it, gave it shape, gave it purpose. It was becoming what we feared. And if I gave it nothing, no fear, no reaction, no story, it would wither. I dropped the tire iron. I'm not running anymore, I said, stepping forward. But you hear me? I'm done. You don't get to live through me. The wind stopped. The air flattened. Lights one by one began to blink out. Yellow, blue, red, heat, until only the soft crackle of the dying flare remained. And then he was gone. No silhouette. No rumble. No smell of burning diesel. Just trees and sky. In silence. It's been 6 months. We had a baby girl. Her name is June. I still check the mirrors more than I should. Still flinch at headlights that ride too close. But the weight's not there anymore. That shadow behind the glass, that pressure in the gut, don't feel it now. Sometimes I wonder if I won, or if it just moved on to someone else. Some new driver on a back road, half awake, thinking they're alone. And then the lights appear. Too bright, too close, too quiet. So if that's you, if you feel something behind you that doesn't act right, that doesn't blink, if it doesn't back off, remember this. You're not crazy. You're not alone. But you might be next. And if the road growls, don't let it catch you. The night started ordinary, just the kind of Friday I thought I'd always remember as routine. I was driving back to my college dorm after a group study session at a friend Hess house in the suburbs. It was around 11:30 p.m., the roads nearly empty, and my Mazda 3 felt smooth beneath me on the highway. I'd just passed the off-ramp toward campus when I first noticed the truck. 2 headlights behind me, bigger than most. Taillights far too bright like LEDs, although on a bigger rig maybe meant for construction. I figured it was only passing me. I stayed at the speed limit, slightly overthinking I'd let it go, except it didn't pass. It just stayed, close behind, too close. I glanced up at the rear view net for the first time. There was no grille shine, no reflective stickers on the bumper, just a blank black front with 2 headlights that flared at me every time I turned. I blinked. It stayed on my tail through the next exit. I changed lanes, thinking maybe I was in its blind spot, but as soon as I shifted left, it mirrored me. That's when the tension started. Where is it coming from? Who's driving? Construction truck, delivery. What's this person doing at midnight tailing me? I tried speeding up, not recklessly, just to test reaction. The truck responded immediately, staying the same distance, matching every foot purse. In the field of my dashboard radar, no one else was around for miles. My phone buzzed. It was my roommate texting saying he was heading home. I thought about calling him, but what would I say? Hey, I think someone's stalking me with a bigger vehicle. I tucked my phone aside and focused. The highway exit to my college town came up. Only one road in. I took the exit and merged onto the narrow 2-lane. Slowed, hoped maybe it would slow too. To my shock, it rocked its headlights. Dipped once, then shone again. A wave. A warning. My pulse picked up. I maneuvered through the road's gentle curves, the truck tailing me still, headlights stable at brake light level, not flashing fast. They blinked once, then steady as before. I pulled into a 24-hour convenience store lot just to get my bearings and maybe grab some water. By the time I turned off the car and stepped onto the pavement, everything was quiet except my own heart. I looked out, empty, highway behind, no truck. I waited a few minutes, no taillights. No diesel hum. After 5 minutes, I figured maybe it never followed, that I'd imagined it college stress, too much coffee, late-night paranoia. I climbed back in the car and entered the highway again, That's when I saw it reappear in my mirror. It was like it had been waiting. As soon as I merged back onto the highway, there it was, half a mile back but closing fast. Same truck, same piercing headlights. No logo, no visible license plate. Just a hulking black silhouette with bright eyes locked on me. This time, I didn't second-guess myself. I hit 70, then 75. Nothing insane. Didn't T want to get pulled over but enough to put some space between us? Didn't work. The truck kept pace. I switched lanes again. It followed. I took the next exit random, unplanned. Some empty stretch of road I didn't recognize, dotted with shuttered gas stations and silent fast food joints. I made 3 turns left, right, then left again. When I finally looked in the mirror, the truck was still there. Okay, I muttered, trying to keep my voice steady. This is not a coincidence anymore. I made another turn onto a residential street, not really thinking, just trying to get off the main road. This one had old ranch-style homes set way back from the curb. All the lights were out, except for one porch glowing faint yellow. I slowed in front of that house and killed my headlights. Just to see. The truck passed slowly. Not fast. Not lost. Just rolling. Windows blacked out. Cab tall enough that I couldn't see the driver, if there even was one. It didn't stop. Just glided by like it was scanning the street. I waited until it was out of sight, then whipped around and took the first turn I could, backtracking fast and weaving randomly through the neighborhood. I drove in circles for 20 minutes. Nothing. No sign of it. No headlights in my mirror. My chest started to unclench. My breathing slowed. I laughed once, sharp and forced. I was about to rejoin the highway when my headlights caught something at the edge of a cul-de-sac. A truck. Parked. Engine off. Just sitting beneath a dead streetlight. Same height. Same shape. No plate. And even though the lights were off, I knew it was the same one. It was waiting. I didn't stop to stare. I backed up and peeled away from the neighborhood like I'd been shot out of a cannon. I got back on the highway, drove all the way to the dorm lot without stopping once, didn't even blink. That night, I parked in the far corner, under the brightest light in the lot, and sat there for 10 minutes before I built up the nerve to get out. I didn't see the truck again. Not that night, not the next week. But I felt it. It sensed that someone was just around the corner, one turn behind me. That paranoia when I looked in the rear view and saw headlights I couldn't identify. I started taking different routes to class, parked in new spots every day. Eventually I told myself it was over. Maybe it had been a prank or a weird coincidence or someone with serious mental issues who'd moved on. Till one night, weeks later, I left the library at 1:45 a.m. and found a fresh smear of greasy handprints across the back windshield of my car. They weren't just fingerprints, they were full palm smears. Wide, like from someone wearing heavy gloves, or maybe hands caked in oil. 4 of them, 2 on the glass, 2 on the trunk. All at strange angles, as if someone had leaned there. Watched. I stood frozen under the parking lot's orange light. The library was behind me, its windows still glowing. And yet I felt like I was standing alone in the middle of a field, naked under a spotlight. There wasn't a single other car parked on that end of the lot. I opened the door slowly, eyes scanning the shadows, half expecting that truck to rumble out from behind one of the nearby dorms. But there was nothing. No engine, no headlights. Just the smear of those greasy hands fading under the cool night air. I wiped them off with my sleeve, even though I knew I shouldn't. I don't know why. I just didn't want to see them anymore. When I got back to my room, I finally told my roommate. "Dude, someone's been following me," I said, "in a truck, and now they're leaving prints on my car." He gave me a look halfway between skeptical and concerned. "Like a pickup?" "No, like a rig. An 18-wheeler black. No logos, no plates." He laughed, but it wasn't mean, just awkward. "Are you sure it's not just some overworked delivery guy?" "No," I said flatly. "This guy's following me on purpose." I could tell he wanted to chalk it up to stress. Finals were coming. We'd all been sleeping like crap. But when I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo I took of the smeared prints before I wiped them, his face changed. "That's kind of messed up, yeah," I said. We started walking to the dining hall, and I told him everything. The late-night drive. The truck following me through the suburbs. The parking. The waiting. The disappearance. By the time we got back to our room that night, We both agreed. I needed to report it. So the next morning, I went to campus security, filed a report, showed them the photo, gave them my plate number and dorm location, told them everything. They nodded, jotted things down, told me to call if I saw anything again. I asked if there'd been similar reports. They hesitated. One of the officers, a younger guy, maybe ex-military, leaned forward a little and said, "You said no plates?" "Yeah, cab blacked out." I nodded. He looked at the older officer beside him, then back to me. "That truck been flashing its lights at you?" "Once at the beginning." He leaned back, face unreadable now. "If it happens again, get somewhere public. Don't try to lose it. Just stay lit. Stay moving. Got it?" That wasn't comforting. Not at all. But I nodded. I haven't driven alone at night since. I didn't expect anything to change after the report. I half assumed the security team would file it under student paranoia and forget about it by lunch. But something did change, just not in a way I expected. 2 days after I filed the report, I noticed a white unmarked SUV parked across from the dorm entrance. Campus security, probably, or local police. Either way, it was there again the next night. Different vehicle, same spot. Engine running, someone sitting behind the tinted glass. They weren't watching me. They were watching for it. At least that's what I hoped. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about that night. The way the truck just knew where I was, how it never lost track of me, even through neighborhoods and random turns. The way it didn't panic, didn't chase aggressively, just followed, deliberate, patient. That's not random. It's not road rage. That's a hunt. 3 weeks passed, nothing. The SUV disappeared after a few nights, probably reassigned or pulled for lack of activity. I tried to move on, focused on class, caught up on sleep, convinced myself that maybe the guy gave up. Maybe I was just a weird target of opportunity. Maybe I hadn't been chosen. Till one night, walking out of the gym just past 11, I saw a truck parked across the street, not moving, lights off. But I recognized the shape instantly. Cab too tall, frame too square, nose too flat, like a brick on wheels. I stopped in my tracks. A group of students walked past me, laughing, completely unaware. My stomach sank. I took my phone out, pretended to scroll, and stole glances at the truck. Still off, still just sitting. I made a decision, probably a stupid one. I walked toward it, not close, just to the crosswalk, maybe 50 feet away. If this guy was going to keep showing up, I wanted to look at him. A plate, face, something. But as I approached, the truck turned on. No ignition sound. It's just lights, bright, white, blinding. The engine didn't roar to life. It was like it had always been running silently, just waiting to reveal itself. It pulled forward. I stepped back fast. No screeching tires, no revving. Just a smooth, slow glide forward, passing me without pause. No windows rolled down. No driver visible in the glare. But as it passed, I saw something in the side mirror. It's written in thick marker, right on the glass. "I know who you are." And just like that, was gone. It's pulled down the street, disappeared around a corner, and I realized something else. It never tried to hurt me, not yet. It just wanted me to know. And now it knew that I knew. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing that message. "I know who you are," burned into the back of my eyelids every time I shut them. The way it was scrawled in Evan, aggressive. Like it had been written with one hand, while the other stayed on the wheel, bothered me in a way I could unexplain. This wasn't random anymore. It felt personal. I called my brother the next morning. He was older by 5 years, used to be in the military, now worked as a mechanic out in Albuquerque. He wasn't the kind of guy who'd humor me just to be polite, so I told him, "Someone's been following me in a truck. It's not road rage, like, deliberately, over weeks." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. "You think it's someone you know?" "No, I don't think so. I never got a good look. But it keeps showing up. Same truck, every time. No plates, no markings. Same model. I don't even know what model. Big diesel, probably. Square cab. Headlights too bright." He was quiet again. "Then you ever hear of ghost trucks?" I rolled my eyes. "Dude, come on. No, I don't mean like literal ghosts. I mean guys who drive like they're not part of the grid. No plates, no registration, no logbooks. Old highway runners. Some of them live in the rigs. They never stop. Don't go through way stations. Don't get caught. They just drive. I sat with that for a moment. Oh, that's a real thing. Yep, not a myth. Especially if they've got a vendetta. You piss one off, even by accident, they'll make time for you. I thought back to every trip I'd made that semester. Had I cut someone off? Blinded someone with my brights? I didn't think so. What do I do? Next time you see it, get a picture. Driver's side. Plate if you can. Do not engage. Don't brake check. Don't wave. Don't challenge. Just document and report. Got it. Got it. 3 nights later, I got my chance. I was driving back from a friend's place, only 5 blocks from campus, when I saw the headlights appear again in my rear view. Same height, same glow. This time I didn't panic. I didn't speed up or slow down. I just reached down, slowly, and turned on my phone camera. I tilted the mirror slightly, tried to angle the lens just right. Snap, 1 photo.
The flash accidentally went off.
And the truck reacted instantly. It surged forward, no hesitation, no build-up, just a lurch of raw weight closing the gap between us in seconds. I could hear the hum of its engine, now deep and strained, like it hated being noticed. It didn't try to hit me, it just rode me. Inches from my bumper. Could feel it pressing into the air behind me, pushing like it wanted me to make a mistake. But I didn't. I turned calmly onto a well-lit road and kept driving. Just like that, it was gone. 1 second it was behind me. The next it wasn't. I pulled over and checked the photo. It was blurry. Worse than blurry, smudged. Like there'd been Vaseline on the lens, or the headlights had warped the image somehow. The truck was there but vague, hunched low and wide, almost melting into the street. The only part that came out clear, the side mirror. With the message still written there, only now it said, "You keep looking." After that night, I stopped driving entirely. For a week, maybe more, I lost track of the days. I walked everywhere. Classes, the store, even the half-mile to work. If I couldn't get there on foot, I didn't go. I told people it was for health. They didn't ask. But that kind of fear, it's not sustainable. Can't live your life in orbit around something that might not show up again. Eventually you start convincing yourself it wasn't real, that you overreacted, that maybe you imagined the messages, the truck, the feeling of being hunted. By the second week, that's where I was, till I got the envelope. It was shoved into my dorm mailbox, no stamps, no return address, not even my name on it, just plain white, sealed badly. I opened it without thinking. Inside was a photo of me walking, broad daylight, probably the week before. I was crossing in front of the campus library, backpack slung over one shoulder, head down, phone in hand. I flipped it over. On the back, written in the same thick black marker as the mirror messages, "Walk, drive, run, still see you." I threw up in the dorm bathroom 20 minutes later. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely unlock the stall. This wasn't about the truck anymore. Whoever was doing this knew me, what I looked like, where I lived, where I studied. And more than anything, they wanted me to know they could reach me anytime. I tried to file another report with campus police. This time they took it seriously. A detective from the town department followed up, took the photo, and asked me a bunch of questions. Had I made any enemies? Was I involved with anyone shady? Was there anyone I could think of who might want to scare me? I told them the truth. No. I was just a junior, majoring in environmental science, and this had started out of nowhere. They kept the photo and promised to patrol the area around my dorm more often. That night, I slept with a knife under my pillow. 2 days passed. Nothing happened. Then, on a Thursday morning, I found something jammed under my windshield wiper. I had Dan T driven in days. Just moved the car to a new spot in the lot to avoid tickets. It was a napkin, the kind from a diner, folded 3 times and stained with something greasy. Inside, "Get back in." And underneath it, drawn in thick marker, a tiny crude sketch of a truck. Long rectangle for the cab, circles for wheels. Square window scribbled in black. Who leaves that? What kind of person draws that? I threw it away and skipped class. I sat in my room with the blinds down and stared at my phone, wondering if it was worth calling my parents. I kept imagining the sound of that engine. That heavy, low grumble that didn't need to rev to terrify. It's the kind that just waited. And the worst part? A small, sick part of me wanted to get in the car, to turn the key, to see if he'd be there, because the waiting, the not knowing, was starting to break something in me. I held out another week. Didn't drive. Didn't go out past sundown. Didn't answer calls I didn't recognize. Every time someone knocked on my dorm room door, I jumped my hand instinctively going to the cheap folding knife I kept on the desk. The detective who took my case emailed once said they'd keep an eye on things, but there'd been no leads, no camera footage, no witnesses, nothing. At some point, life just resumed around me. My roommate stopped asking if I was okay. Professors stopped emailing about missed assignments. Even I started pretending it was fading. But I couldn't fake the feeling in my chest, a constant low-pressure ache like something heavy was watching, waiting. So when my mom called and asked if I wanted to come home for spring break early, I said yes, without even thinking. My hometown was 3 hours away, country roads mostly. Flat stretches of blacktop bordered by barbed wire fields and old highway motels. I figured I'd make the drive during the day, play it safe. I hadn't seen the truck in weeks now. Maybe I'd shaken it. Maybe it'd gotten bored. The day I left, the sky was overcast. One of those pale gray days that doesn't decide if it wants to rain or not. I packed light, double-checked my tires, filled the tank, and then I sat there in the driver's seat, keys in hand, staring out at the edge of the parking lot. There was nothing. No headlights, no rumble, just wind. I started the engine. The drive was calm for the first hour. Podcasts on low volume, cruise control set. I passed a few Trucks Real One semis with Amazon trailers, feed haulers, covered in dust, even an old cattle truck with rust-stained doors. I watched them all carefully, but none of them followed me. Around the 2-hour mark, I stopped for gas at a lonely station in a town called Huxley. It was one of those one-pump setup cinder block building, no bathroom, just a pump and an old cashier behind glass. When I stepped out of the car, I paused, because across the road, parked between two beat-up sedans at the edge of a junkyard, was a truck, not moving, engine off. But the cab looked familiar. Same square shape, same matte black hood. I stared for a long time. No writing this time, no lights. I walked slowly to the pump, glancing at it between steps. If this was him, he was letting me see him on purpose. This was a message. I finished fueling and left without saying a word to the cashier. Didn't even close my gas cap. Got in the car and drove. 10 minutes later, I checked the mirror. Empty highway. Another 5 minutes. Still empty. Then I saw the glare. 2 tiny points of white rising over the slope behind me, getting bigger, speeding. Just approaching. Casual. Icy. My hands tightened on the wheel. I glanced at the phone. No signal. I switched lanes, slowed slightly. Truck stayed in the right lane, still following. I passed a green sign. Exit 47 to 2 miles. I made my choice. Took the exit. No blinker. Just a sudden, sharp turn. The truck followed. No hesitation. That's when I knew. This wasn't about chance. This wasn't bad luck. It had waited for me to get back in the car. It had planned this. And now we were alone again. It just me, the wheel, and whatever was behind those headlights. The exit dumped me onto a narrow country road. No lights, no shoulder, just cracked pavement and overgrown ditches on either side. I didn't recognize the area. No landmarks, no gas stations, not even any homes. Just power poles and the sound of my own tires crunching over gravel at the road's edge. I glanced in the mirror. The truck took the turn slower than me, but it didn't lose pace for long. A half-mile back. Then a quarter. Its lights didn't flicker or change just to unwavering beams fixed straight ahead. Like a predator locking eyes with its prey, I kept driving. I passed an old farm gate with a rusted sign that said Windrow Dairy. Nitrogen monoxide trespassing. I made a hard right, hoping to lose him on a dirt road. Still there. I took another right, then a left. The road narrowed until I wasn't sure if it was even paved anymore. Fences leaned sideways, eaten by vines. An abandoned trailer sat half-sunk in a field, roof caved in, door missing. I passed it doing 40. I looked again, still there, but closer now. Its headlights stretched long through my rear window, lighting up the inside of my car like daylight. My hands were slick on the wheel. Every part of me screamed to run, but there was nowhere to run to. I reached into the cue folder and grabbed my phone. No bars. I turned the screen to camera mode and pointed it at the mirror again, trying to snap a shot. As soon as I did, the truck swerved. I don't mean it drifted. I mean it cut across the road, tires screeching. Like it was trying to sideswipe me from behind even, though there was at least 15 feet between us. My whole car jolted sideways from the wind it kicked up. I fought the wheel and got back on the road. That's when I made my mistake. Panicked. I hit the brakes. It's not enough to stop, just to slow down, thinking it'd back off. Instead, the truck accelerated. Hard. It closed the gap to 10 feet in seconds. Headlights flaring. Grille massive in the mirror now, so close I couldn't see the road behind it. Just black and chrome and a rage I could feel pressing through the windshield. I gunned it, but it stuck. No matter how fast I went, it kept that same distance breathing down my neck like it was waiting for the right moment to strike. Then I saw the bridge. It hit the incline full speed. Too fast, too wide, too heavy. And then I saw it. The front end lifted slightly. The back tires lost contact with the pavement. It launched not like a full jump, just a low arc enough for gravity to realize what was happening. The whole rig slammed back down, but not on the road. On the edge of the bridge, the metal shrieked, and the truck tilted. And then, just like that, tit vanished off the side. I braked hard and skidded to a stop. Dust rose in waves from behind me. I threw open the door and ran back, stopping just short of the rail. The whole bridge trembled under my feet. Below, about 20 feet down, I saw the truck, lying on its side. Cab crushed, hood steaming, smoke curling out from the undercarriage. But no fire, and no driver. The door to the cab was open, swinging gently in the wind. I didn't climb down. I didn't call for help. I just stood there, chest heaving, and stared until the smoke thinned into the gray morning light. Then I got back in the car. I drove home without stopping. I didn't say a word to my parents when I got home. They noticed I was pale, shaking, and probably still smelled like burned rubber and adrenaline butt. I told them I was tired, bad drive, needed to sleep. They believed me. Or maybe they didn't want to press. I lay in bed for 12 hours that night and barely slept 30 minutes. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that truck rolling off the bridge again. Nose first into the ditch, cab crumpling like a soda can. But more than that, I saw the open door, swinging, no body, no driver, just empty. I kept waiting for someone to contact me. Police, fire, highway patrol, anyone who might have found the crash. But no call ever came. 2 days later, I drove back to the bridge. I told myself it was to get closure. Maybe bring photos, report the wreck anonymously, whatever. But I think I just wanted to make sure it was real. When I got there, though, the truck was gone. No wreckage, no skid marks, no broken guardrails. The bridge looked untouched. It's like nothing had ever happened. I walked down into the ditch, even checked the dirt for tracks. There were tire grooves, sure but old, faded, probably from years ago. I stood there for a long time listening. Nothing, no birds, no wind, no engine. Back at school, everything seemed normal again. The security guy I'd talked 2 weeks ago saw me walking across campus one morning. He raised a hand and said, "No more trucks lately." I shook my head. Nothing. He smiled, then said sometimes these things just stop, and walked away. But it didn't feel like it had stopped. It felt like something had been satisfied, like I'd passed some kind of invisible line. Whatever had been following me, whatever had been sitting behind those blinding headlights, I think it got what it wanted. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted to corner me, to break me, to watch me squirm. And once it did, it moved on, maybe to the next highway, the next driver. It's the next college kid who blinks twice at a truck in their mirror and thinks, "That's weird. Why is he still back there?" If that's you, listen to me. Don't ignore it. Don't wave it off as coincidence or paranoia. Because once it locks onto you, once it decides you're worth following, you'll be in it for miles. And if you're lucky or really lucky, you'll only see it once. But if you keep seeing it, if it keeps showing up, just remember it doesn't want to crash into you. It wants to know how far you'll go before you break. We were only supposed to be passing through. It was the tail end of summer, right before classes started up again. Me, James, Liv, and Taylor had packed into my '04 Honda Accord with the goal of seeing Monument Valley at sunrise. Just a detour, one of those spontaneous side quests that always sound cooler than they end up being. We were on Highway 491, somewhere in northern New Mexico. A couple hours past Gallup, middle of nowhere. Liv was asleep in the back, her hoodie up over her face, and Taylor was dozing with her forehead pressed against the window. James was riding shotgun, legs on the dash, scrolling through playlists. I remembered because he was about to cue up that same overplayed Phoebe Bridgers song when we saw the lights, red and blue, flashing in the mirror. I blinked, startled. James looked up. Shit, is that for us, I guess? I checked the speedometer. I'm doing like 58 in a 65. Maybe a broken taillight or something, he offered, already reaching for the glove box to grab my registration. I signaled and pulled over onto the gravel shoulder. The lights behind us slowed, and a dark, nondescript SUV pulled up behind, headlights still glaring. No spotlight, no loudspeaker, just the flashers. Taylor stirred. "We getting pulled over?" "Apparently," I muttered. The SUV door opened, and a man stepped out, uniformed, but not quite right. I remember that clearly. There was no badge glint, no patches on the sleeves, just a dark shirt, a tan vest, and something that resembled a utility belt. He had a wide-brimmed hat, like a state trooper might wear, but something about the angle looked off. It sat too low on his head, hiding his eyes. James cracked his window a couple inches. "License and reg?" he called out, trying to sound casual. The man didn't smile, didn't flash a badge, just stepped closer and said flatly, "You kids aren't in trouble. Just need to take a detour off this road. There's been a spill ahead. Turn up the next dirt road. Follow me to a safe spot to wait it out." That was it. No explanation. No backup vehicle. No traffic cones. No signs. No flares. Just a random guy telling us to follow. James hesitated. "You got a badge number we can call in?" The man turned slightly, hand resting on what looked like a holstered weapon. "You can make your calls when we're safe. Let's not jam the road, all right? It's dangerous up ahead." And then he walked back to his SUV. Didn't wait for a response. Didn't check our info. Just climbed in and pulled forward onto the road again, driving slowly toward an unmarked dirt path on the right. We sat there in silence. "You believe this?" James asked. "I don't know," I said, heart thudding. "Feels weird, but what if it's real?" Liv groggily sat up behind us, rubbing her face. "What's going on?" "Cops want us to follow them off the highway," James explained. "Why? Chemical spill?" She blinked. "Didn't hear anything about that on the radio?" Taylor leaned between the seats. "Let's just wait. Call someone." But that's when the SUV's lights flashed again up ahead. Once. Twice. Waiting. James glanced at me. "Dude," I exhaled, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Then I put the car in drive. The dirt road wasn't just unmarked. It felt forgotten. As soon as I turned off the highway, the tires dipped into loose gravel that cracked and popped beneath us. The SUV ahead of us moved steadily, its red taillights flickering like dying coals, casting just enough light to guide us, but not enough to see the surroundings. There were no road signs, no fences. Just dry grass, scattered scrub brush, and a flat horizon under a darkening sky. James kept glancing behind us, but there was no one else on the highway. No backup cars, no other detour drivers, just us. "You sure about this?" Taylor whispered, voice thin. "No," I said, "not even a little." I eased off the gas, letting the distance between us and the SUV grow slightly. The road curved gently to the right, rising toward a low hill, and that's when we saw it. The barn. Old half-collapsed. The roof was caved in near the middle, and one of the big doors hung open on rusted hinges. There was a flicker of yellow light inside, like a lantern or maybe a flashlight. The SUV pulled up alongside the barn and stopped. Just stopped, didn't get out. Didn't wave us over. Just sat there, lights still on, engine running. I stopped the car a good 40 yards back. James shifted in his seat. Nope, this is sketch. Liv leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. There's someone in the barn. Did you see that? Movement? Taylor was shaking. We should turn around. I reached for the shifter when the SUV's driver door opened again. Same guy. Same wide-brimmed hat. Still no badge, no flashlight, no radio. He stepped into the headlights, and this time, we got a better look. His shirt stitched together near the shoulder like it had been torn and repaired. His belt plastic, not even a real holster, just some prop-looking imitation with nothing in it. His pants baggy, like surplus military gear from a flea market. He didn't walk toward us. Jess turned his head back toward the barn and raised one hand, 2 fingers, like a signal. That's when the barn doors moved. 4 figures emerged, fast, not walking rushing, all dressed differently. One in camo, one in jeans and a ski mask, another in a hoodie with the hood pulled low. The fourth I couldn't see fully, just a silhouette holding something long and metal. A pipe maybe, or a rifle. Drive, James said. Not yell, just said it, sharp and clear, like his voice had cracked into instinct. My foot slammed the gas before I even realized I'd moved. The car fishtailed in the dirt, back wheels spinning on gravel before finally gripping. We shot forward, then banked hard to the left, away from the barn and toward a gap in the tree line that looked like it might lead back to pavement. The SUV roared behind us, engine finally coming alive, wheels chewing up dust as it gave chase. But they'd made a mistake. They'd assumed we'd wait. We didn't. We tore through that dirt road like it was a war zone. The rear tires kicked up a choking cloud of dust that swallowed the SUV's headlights. But I could still see the beams flickering behind us, weaving through brush, chasing every turn we took. The terrain was uneven, gut-punching dips, sudden mounds, loose gravel that made the steering wheel twitch in my hands. Branches slapped the windshield. Rocks pinged off the undercarriage. Somewhere behind us, I heard a loud crack like something metal being dropped or thrown, but I didn't look back. Taylor was hyperventilating, gripping the back of my seat so hard her knuckles were white. Liv had her hand on the door, like she was considering bailing mid-ride. You know where this goes? No idea, I shouted. It's just away. We blasted through a narrow gate, the kind used for cattle fencing, the wooden post snapping as we clipped it at the edge. The road sloped down suddenly, and the headlights revealed a creek bed dried up but wide, full of loose rocks and debris. We had seconds to decide. Hold on, I shouted. The car hit the slope hard and bounced. The impact sent us airborne for just a second, just long enough for the tires to lose all contact and my gut to rise into my throat before. We slammed down into the dry creek. Metal groaned. Something under the car scraped deep, but we didn't stop. I cut hard left, following the dry creek downstream, bouncing over the rocks, praying the suspension didn't give out. The SUV didn't follow. I caught its headlights perched above the ridge for a moment, pausing like it was trying to figure out if it could safely descend. It couldn't, not like we had. But the men from the barn? They were on foot. I saw at least 2 of them darting through the trees on the ridge, trying to track our path. One had a flashlight sweeping wildly through the dark. The beam landed on us once, just briefly, and I caught a glimpse of a masked face, eyes wide, almost surprised we were still moving. We followed the creek another 100 yards until I saw a break in the trees, what looked like a narrow trail leading up and out. No signs, no lights, just a sliver of sky. Up there? James shouted, pointing. We climbed the embankment, tires skidding, engine growling like it hated me. We emerged onto a dirt path, barely wide enough for a car, and I spotted something that made me want to scream with relief. Signpost, battered, bullet-tridden, faded white paint barely clinging to the letters. CR 218. Back to Highway 491 gives. I didn't care if we lost an axle, I followed that arrow. The road gradually smoothed. The forest thinned. Civilization, or whatever passed for it out here, started to return. We passed a cattle gate, then an old barn that wasn't rigged for an ambush. Then, finally, blinking in the distance, headlights. Real ones. Moving traffic on the highway. I didn't stop until I was back on the pavement, until I could feel the texture change under my tires, and knew I was somewhere that other people existed. Only then did I slow down enough to breathe. No one spoke for miles. We didn't say anything until we saw the green sign for Shiprock. It felt like crawling out of a grave into light. I don't even remember the gas station we pulled into. just that it had flickering fluorescence, busted ice machine out front, and a woman behind the counter who stared at us like we were either ghosts or criminals. I parked crookedly by the diesel pumps and killed the engine. Everyone just sat there, breathing. James finally spoke, his voice hoarse. So, that was not a cop. No one laughed. Not even a little. Taylor turned toward me, eyes shining in the dark. We could have died, Aaron. They could have killed us. I know, I whispered. I almost got out, Liv said softly from the back. When they stopped, I was going to go ask what was going on. We were all quiet again. Then James pulled out his phone. We need to call this in. No signal, I muttered. Still. There's Wi-Fi inside, Taylor said. I saw the sticker on the door. James and I got out and went in together, legs still shaky. The woman behind the counter was watching a small TV set to local news. Didn't look up as we entered. I walked up slowly. Hey, do you know if there's a sheriff around here? She finally glanced over. Office down by the auto shop. Closed at this hour. James was already dialing 911. He didn't have to say much. Just the words impersonating an officer. Firearms in ambush had the dispatcher's voice changing fast. She asked for our location, then told us to stay put. I wasn't about to argue. 2 units showed up 20 minutes later. 1 tribal police, 1 county. Blue and white cruisers, lights off, dust rising behind them. We gave our statements. Everything. From the second the SUV pulled us over to the barn, to the chase through the woods. James even showed the deputy the notes he detyped on his phone with road names and landmarks. Liv remembered part of the license plate. Taylor described one of the masked guys down to the shoe-stand work boots with a rip in the laces. When I mentioned the fake uniform, the tribal officer gave a small, grim nod. We've had a few reports like that, he said. Mostly travelers, people from out of state. Why isn't it all over the news? James asked. Because no one's gotten hurt, he said. The word yet hung heavy in the air. The county deputy added, they know how to pick their marks. Isolated roads, late at night. Soft targets. You guys did the right thing by running. I almost didn't, I admitted. He looked official enough. Said there was a chemical spill. That's a classic, the officer said. One time it was a flood, another time car fire. Doesn't matter what the story is, it's just about getting you off the main road. Into the dark, Taylor murmured. Away from help. They asked us to stay in town for the night. Said they detow the car in the morning and have it checked. There was some serious undercarriage damage. And they didn't want us getting stranded again. We crashed at a tiny roadside inn called the Red Mesa Lodge. It wasn't much, but the deadbolt worked. We all slept in the same room. No one said it, but none of us wanted to be alone. The next morning, the sun came up, blood orange, smeared through a haze of distant wildfire smoke. We sat in silence around a cracked plastic table in the motel's breakfast room, each of us clutching weak coffee and trying not to look like we de-lived through a nightmare. The guy at the next table was scrolling TikTok on full volume. Somewhere in the back, a microwave beeped. James looked hollow. Liv hadn't touched her granola bar. Taylor was scrolling the local news on her phone, tapping fast, as she was hoping for a headline that would validate everything we'd seen. Nothing. No arrests. No barn. No suspect descriptions. The sheriff's deputy stopped by the motel before noon. He brought a mechanic with him who slid under the car, whistled once, told me the oil pan had cracked on the creek rocks. Said I was lucky it hadn't bled out on the road. We'll patch it, the guy said. Enough to get you home. Right. I nodded, still numb. The deputy handed me a small form and a card. We're filing a formal investigation, he said. But I want to be real with you. He leaned in, lowering his voice. There are people out here that operate in the gaps, places where GPS drops out, where jurisdiction gets muddy. County, tribal, state. Nobody wants to claim certain roads when it gets inconvenient. That's where they set up. Do you know who they are, I asked. He hesitated. No names. But we've heard of crews doing this. Fake cops luring road trippers into traps. Sometimes it's robbery, sometimes worse, if you hadn't run. He didn't finish the sentence. Do they ever get caught? He glanced out the motel window toward the desert. Sometimes they vanish just as fast as they appear, like someone tips them off. James muttered. So, they're still out there. The deputy nodded. If I were you, I'd stick to daylight driving from now on, stay on the interstates, and never pull over unless it's a clearly marked unit. He left after that, said he'd be in touch, but I knew we'd never hear from him again. We drove home in silence. No music, no stops. Every time we saw a patrol car, we tensed. And even weeks later, back at school, I found myself checking mirrors more than I should have. Not just when driving everywhere. Parking lots, dorm hallways, reflections in store windows, and the barn. I tried finding it again on Google Maps, spent hours looking for that dirt road, that cattle gate, even the warped CR 218 sign. Nothing. Either we imagined it, or they cleaned it up fast. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. When that guy in the fake uniform walked toward us, he didn't look worried, wasn't rushed. He wasn't nervous. He was calm. Like he'd done it before, like he was sure it would work. And I wonder how many others did pull over. How many didn't run. How many never got the chance to tell anyone what happened. I still drive sometimes. Carefully. During the day. And every now and then, if I see flashing lights behind me, I hesitate before pulling over. Because if there's one thing I learned out there in the dark, it's that uniforms can be bought. Guns can be faked. But evil, that walks like anyone else, and it doesn't knock, it waves you over.